Here's a question for you. Should all high school students have part-time jobs? Should they? Well, according to the New York Times, fewer teenagers work nowadays than a generation ago. I think that is true. Amanda, what's your stance on this?
I mean, I do think that there's something you get from the responsibility of being in a workplace that is outside of your school space. I think there's also like a whole generational movement right now that's very much like, I'm not gonna work if I don't wanna work.
Right,
And I regard that too, but I think I think that attitude makes employers have to step up and be better employers and regard their employees in a better way. I had my first job at 8.
Legally?
Dancing at Disney in front of the castle. Yeah, must be Santa. And then, but I still, even though I was on a TV show at 12 on Nickelodeon, still ended up getting a high school job and was working at FAO Schwartz in the Star Wars section. Wow. And it was like a big deal. Like I went there to get a job to work in the Star Wars section. Like it was very serious. May the Force be with me.
I love that.
Amazing.
For me, it felt like in my generation, it was cool to have a high school job. It's like all my friends wanted one, and we all got perks from it. Like, personal perk. I worked at a Giffords Farm Market, it was called, and strawberry season, I would lock myself in the walk-in cooler and just eat strawberries like nonstop. But then other friends had like jobs at all the fast food joints, and going through the driveway, you'd pick up your drive-through. You'd pick up your order, and there'd just be like an extra bag, and it'd be filled with curly fries, and they were free. Does life get better than those days?
But you do learn a lot. You learn a lot about people. I was working, we have a horse farm. Amanda, you don't know that, but my family business is horses, and so I was obviously farm kids, you're free labor, child labor. So I was working from very young for an allowance. 5 or 6 years old is when I started, and I was getting $5 for a whole weekend of mucking stalls. It was so glamorous.
That's pretty good.
But I ran to Le Chateau, would buy all my hot clothes when I was, old enough. But then my first real job outside of the farm, it was at a fast food fried chicken joint. I was 16 years old, vegetarian. What's happening? And I remember it was Super Bowl Sunday. There was a lineup out the door, and I couldn't keep up with the orders. I was really, really stressed. And this guy came in and just blasted me. I guess he was having a very bad day, and I had suggested that he buy a bucket because he wanted to buy individual pieces, but it was going to be way more expensive the way that he was ordering. And he's like, "Don't you tell me how to order my chicken!" And he just blasted me. I quit on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Which is big for a 16-year-old girl, this like old man. But I did learn something about myself. I mean, I have a limit. We all have a limit. But it did teach me about like hard work, how much I could handle. But I did also realize the boundary. I was like, well, I'm not going to be abused for your chicken, sir. And I walked out. But,
Good for you for walking out. Well, I think it's important for kids to get a part-time job because I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, I looked at my parents like an ATM. I wanted something, when you're a teenager, everything you see, you want. Mom, can you buy me? Mom, can you buy me? And my parents were pretty good at buying me stuff for birthdays and Christmas. And I knew the day that my mom was like, this is enough. I asked for a $700 leather jacket. And my mother's like, unless you're on stage with your 4 brothers, you need to get a job. Right? And that's when she got the application, filled it out for me and said, you're working at the library as a page, here you go. You need to earn $1 because you have no sense of what money, how much things cost.
There's also immigrant parents in that, right? We both have Grenada parents.
Yes.
You know, both of our parents are from Grenada.
It's the Caribbean thing, but my mom was like, oh no, you're at this age where you think everything just is free. And she was like, you need a job, so all those things that you want, you can buy them. But you're gonna have to work for it. And I'll tell you, I worked very hard. I felt like working as a page in the library is not hard work. It's not backbreaking labor. But by the time I got my paycheck, I thought it was gonna be thousands of dollars. And I saw $90.84, and I was like, I'm so far away from this leather jacket, I can't even. And then immediately though, as soon as I saw how hard it was to earn that money, all of a sudden, I don't want that jacket. I don't need that jacket. The jacket I have is just fine. And it's like, learning the value of $1 for these teenagers, I think is imperative. Also to set you up for life, to kind of get a sense, because after high school, you're supposed to choose what career path you want to go in. Well, if you've never had a job, how are you supposed to know what your likes and dislikes are? So I think it's very important for them.
I remember being 15, working at FAO Schwartz, and I was doodling in the cash wrap section. I was drawing, and this older man worked with me, and he was like, man, you missed your calling. I was like, I'm 15.
Yeah.
I haven't missed anything. I don't even have a phone.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, right. Go clean up the Anakin Skywalkers. All right.
All I know is that I don't, we were talking this morning, I have memories. My first job was at a variety store. And I remember at 12 years old, it might have been 13.
12?
I was selling cigarettes. And there's something, I don't know if
Is it legal?
Me too. My first job.
this
I
the
was,
80s?
This was, for me, it would have been 89, and I still remember certain characters' orders, like Benz's and Edge's menthol.
Yeah.
This woman would come in with a fur coat. I remember
I'm
that.
glad we're out of that era. Like, I
Yeah.
think that maybe that's it. I just think that a lot of kids today, for all the reasons you said, maybe they've been over extracurriculared as well. But I wonder, and that's part of the reason why they're not getting these extra jobs, but I wonder what happens to their CVs. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe actually having, experience, maybe it's volunteer experience that you're putting on your CVs.
You think so? I think it's going to be weird to go through high school, and then if you couldn't handle a job in high school, then you're definitely going to have one in college, and then you're telling me you're in your 20s and you have nothing to put on a resume?
Exactly. And also,
Nothing?
I think that people are noticing it. Like, I heard through the grapevine within this building that you can tell when somebody has never had a previous
In
job
an
experience.
interview, job interview. Yeah.
I can absolutely tell you that I can tell. I can absolutely tell when someone has never had to work in a space for somebody.
Yep.
And also there's this kind of fantastical idea about like what a job is supposed to be. And then you have to tell them like, oh, honey, no, the job is what I say the job is. And you've agreed to do the job.
Exactly.
But I do think extracurricular is important in also developing character, right? I think it's about the balance, which can be very hard to find, but I think ultimately, especially if you're looking at people who are pursuing college, there's all these extra requirements that colleges want now, right? Like they're like, yeah, you worked for FAO Schwartz, but can you play chess? And you're like, I didn't know that was gonna be a part of this. So I think it's really also about building character in ways that are more community-based. So I want to see kids doing more like, okay, you're working to get them dollars, but you're also working in your community, whether it's donating, whether it's working at like a food bank or working with kids or just finding a way to build character in that.
Hey there, wasn't that great? Do you know where you can find some equally good content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with discussions, debates, and some laughs. Head there now, like and subscribe.